Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives, and if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon, Ed Wallace, and this gal right here, Melanie Little, when we go live or upload another video. Today, we're going to be talking about the sentencing of Lori Shallow Vallow. And I love to call her Shallow Vallow because she is shallow. By a show of hands in the chat, who agrees with me on that one? We want to talk about the sentencing today. We're going to get into a live discussion. We're going to do a little bit of a town hall meeting towards the end of this. I like the town hall meeting situation. I love getting people on and having people talk about this. So we're going to have some user input. But before we get into it, Ed, Melanie, and myself, we want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the moderators, the replay viewers, the subscribers, the folks who leave super thanks at the end while watching the replays. You guys are awesome, awesome sauce. We appreciate you guys tremendously. Ed, I don't want to say where you are unless you are willing to release that undisclosed location, but Ed is in a remote location in a hotel room somewhere. Melanie is home, and we're going to dive into this case. How are you feeling tonight, Ed?
Much better. Thank you.
Good. Melanie, thank you for doing 2 nights in a row with us. We were going last night for at least an hour and 45 minutes. And now we're back at it again. Lori Vallow sentenced to 3 life without the chance of, or the possibility of parole, and back-to-back sentences. I just wanted to go to you first because this is an attorney's perspective, and a lawyer reacts is in our title. Melanie, thoughts on today and Judge Boyce? He really took us for a ride.
Yeah, he really did. You know, the most surprising thing, I wasn't surprised with the sentence, that I wasn't surprised with the victim impact statements. The most surprising thing to me was that Lori actually got up and spoke. I did not think there was any way in hell that she was going to get up and make a statement, but she did. And it was just about as whack as you can imagine. So we are going to, I think, watch some of that. You know, complete and total narcissism, no remorse. We'll get into it more, but it was something to see if you haven't seen it. So buckle up.
Absolutely. Ed, I know that you probably were watching the sentencing, you know, from afar. You have a lot going on today, but just wanted to get your thoughts because we covered this a lot with the forensics and all of the evidence that was recovered at Chad Daybell's cemetery in the backyard. There's just a trail of evidence left behind. And listen, the verdict was unanimous and guilty on all counts. But here with the sentencing, you surprised by any of this, Ed?
No, they had a really tight case. The evidence was there. There was no other suspects that, you know, could have done this. And you know, I mean, just wait till you see the statement. Just listen. You know that this person is not right in the head. Okay, this cult lifestyle that she was living, her beliefs, it drove everything that she did. Okay, so and then you can understand.
Yeah, and what we spoke about in the past on this case is anything when it's extreme. It doesn't have to be religion. Any type of extreme beliefs are dangerous at certain times. You know, and when you hear Larry Woodcock, we're going to get to him and Kay, they talk about, you know, never letting this happen again. And people heard Chad and Lori Shallow Vallow talking about eliminating people who became, as they say, dark, right? When you hear conversations like that, you have to step up. And he even said, if you hear something or see something, say something. And that's the mantra here in New York City, right? After 9/11 and
see something, say something.
Yeah. So he mentions it. Let's go right to Lori Vallow's statement in court today. It really was puke worthy because she started out by reciting a verse from the Bible or some type of religious diatribe that she was going on, and it was disgusting to hear her, but she really believes her own lies. And we're going to take a listen to this, and we'll be right back to you guys. And if you guys listen in the chat, if this stuff bothers you, again, here's a PTSD, here's a warning, a disclaimer, you know, listen at your own risk, because this is pretty pretty difficult to listen to. But here we go. Here's Lori Shallow Vallow Daybell.
I would like to start by quoting John from the New Testament in the Bible. In John chapter 8, verse 7, Jesus says, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her." Then in verse 15, Jesus says, "Ye judge after the flesh, I judge no man. And yet if I judge, my judgment is true." Jesus knows me, and Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn my children and Tammy. Jesus Christ knows the truth of what happened here. Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen. I have a different perspective in life because in 2002, when I was pregnant with Tylee, I died in the hospital while in labor with her. They tried to stop my labor. They put me on the table and they put something in my IV, and I felt my spirit falling to the floor. I was standing near my pregnant body, watching the doctors try to revive me, which took them a few minutes. In that time, my sister Stacy was standing to my left. I turned to hug her and was surprised that her spirit was as tangible as a physical body, because I knew I was in spirit and she was in spirit. She said she needed to show me some things, and we went to heaven. I later returned to my body. Because of this experience, I have access to heaven and the spirit world. Since then, I have had many communications from people now living in heaven, including my children, Tylee Ashlyn and Joshua Jackson, my sisters, Stacy and Lolly, my aunts and my uncles, and my grandparents. I have had many communications with Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, and our heavenly parents. I've had many angelic visitors have come and communicated with me and even manifested themselves to me. Because of these communications, I know for a fact that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world. Because of my communications with my friend Tammy Daybell, I know that she is also very happy and extremely busy. I have always mourned the loss of my loved ones, and I have lost many in this mortal world. However, I know them more than most people. I know where they are now and what they're doing. I know how wonderful heaven is, and I'm homesick for it every single day. I know we all lived in heaven before we were born on earth, and we were all adult spirits in the heavenly realm. We chose to come to earth as mortals. Heaven is more wonderful than you can possibly imagine. I do not fear death, but I look forward to it. I did not want to return to my body when I was out of it. Even though my son Colby, who I adored more than anything, was only 6 years old at the time, and I was about to give birth to this new baby girl that I wanted so badly. I was a young mother, and you would think I wouldn't want to leave my children, but as I stood in heaven, I did not want to go back. I thought they would be fine without me because I was peaceful and I was happy and I was home. But then I was told by Jesus that I needed to go back and complete things that I had covenanted or promised to do before I was born. This caused me a lot of distress because I knew heaven was my real home, and I only wanted to be there. I was free from pain, emotional and physical. But then I was shown how I would help my children and others in the future. So ultimately, I did agree to go back to my body. Tylee has visited me. She is happy and very busy. Tylee is free now from all the pains of her life. Tylee suffered horrible physical pain her whole life. I sat with Tylee in the hospital year after year after year while she screamed in pain when the morphine wasn't even enough to take away the pain of her pancreatitis. I sat there while she cried and I held back her hair while she threw up. And I am the only person on this earth who knows how much Tylee suffered in her life. She had pain every single day. She never felt good. Her body did not work right. And I don't know if that was from complications from me dying while she was being born or something else, but she had a very difficult life. She was sexually abused by her own biological father since she was 3 years old, and she was forced by family court to go visit him for 10 years against her will. I fought for her in court. I protected her. I tried to protect her with my whole life. I tried to protect her. I worried about her every single day. Tylee had to get her GED because she couldn't go to school every day because she never felt good. She felt sick. Nobody knows this because Tylee, like myself, tries to put on a good front, tries to be a happy person, tries to have hope in life, tries to know that she's here for a purpose and that she has an eternal purpose to be on this earth. But I never stopped worrying about her. One of the times that Tylee came to me as a spirit after.
Whoops.
Ms. Mays?
I don't know what happened there. Well, I think we heard enough. I think that was the YouTube God saying that's enough. I want to go straight to you, Melanie, because I saw some of your reactions while we were watching this, and I saw you taking some notes. But again, as a mom, mother of 5, as an attorney, what did you make of this bullshit that she just spewed there?
She made it all about her. It was all about her. It was the most narcissistic thing that I've ever heard. She painted herself as a savior, as a martyr, as a, she's blaming everyone else but herself, blaming the court, blaming the doctors who almost killed her. She made it seem like she was doing Tylee a favor by ending her life because she was in so much pain. So she was the savior that was going to save her. It was almost like a suicide note. Like she wants to die. She did not want to come back from the afterlife. You know, her near-death experience, she's in complete denial. She showed zero remorse. She turned on the crocodile tears when she thought she needed to. And you know how they came and went so easily. She knows for a fact that her children are busy and happy. She said that several times. They're busy and they're happy. And she talked about my friend Tammy. And I can't imagine the cringing that went on in that courtroom when she said, my friend Tammy. The whole thing was completely self-serving. I've never heard anything like it. You know, to bring Jesus's name into this whole thing as if she's also special. You know, she can talk to God. Jesus speaks to her, and she can speak to the people that are in heaven and the people that are on earth because she's so special. It was all about how special she is.
Yeah. It was despicable. And you know, we heard from Tammy Daybell's sister, and she said that was an outright lie, and everything that she put forward was a lie during this trial. And just again, everything self-serving, me, never once talking about. She even went as far, Ed, I know you just can't wait to jump in here, but she even went as far as to allude that kids weren't killed. They weren't murdered.
No, they weren't murdered. Yeah. She sounded like Brian Laundrie's confession about why he killed his fiance. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a mercy kill. Okay, and she's no theologian. I'll tell you that right now. She has no clue about Christianity. Okay, because everything she was spewing outside of the psalm that she quoted, I mean, that was a direct quote. Other than that, she has no clue as what she's talking about in terms of religion. And it's also, it reminds me of Manchesm by proxy.
Yes.
And so that immediately popped into my head when you hear her talking. Okay, so. She was gathering sympathy and living precariously or vicariously rather through her daughter's illness. Okay, and getting, you know, having people come to her and give her attention, and you know, because of all she was doing for her daughter and all this stuff. Oh my God, she's a classic psychopath.
Yeah, it was despicable to hear her, and I'm surprised. And Melanie, you said it before we went live. You're surprised that she even had the audacity to make a statement, and then she doubles down on a ridiculously self-centered statement that made it all about her. That made it all about her and how great she is, and how great the afterlife is. It's utter insanity.
She had the audacity to say no one was murdered here. Accidents happen, suicides happen, fatal side effects from medications happen. And then went on to talk about herself and how she died in the hospital, and like gave 3 other explanations for what happened, none of them having to do with the actual intentional killing of her children, because that couldn't have possibly have happened. They must have died of a fatal medication side effect.
Right.
Mind-numbing.
Okay, you have a better chance of winning the lotto than having two of your children die in the manners that they died. All right.
And when we covered this with Barbara, Ed, we talked about the sudden heart failure that Tammy Daybell suffered. We come to find out it was asphyxia that she died from, right? But like, look at her brother, sudden heart attack. He was relatively healthy, Alex Cox. Sudden heart attack. 1 or more of her previous 5 husbands, heart attack, sudden. And she alludes to, you know, overdosing on medication and so forth. That, I think that was her own admission to some of her method of operations. You know, I want to listen to, and I want everyone, I fast forwarded it. It was 31 minutes long. Judge Boyce was getting heavy criticism today in Law and Crime's live chat. I was in there for a few minutes because I had a hectic day at the office, but I did, thanks to Melanie, get a heads up that this was going on. And I went in there and I was looking back and forth. Judge Boyce at one point called Lori Vallow a good mother. He said, you were at one point a good mother, a good human being, a good person. You had no criminal record up until now, up to age 50. You didn't kill anybody, at least in his court, right? He's not looking at other cases and such. But he made
what about her husband?
Right. He made these statements, and it made people attack him in the comments. They were like, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. This guy's horrible. But he really did something great. He set her up for the slam dunk, and he basically lifted her up and gave her some hope that he was going to be lenient. And then he told her, because you refused to cooperate with the pre-sentence interview, right? Melanie, I'm going to go to you on this. And because you provided this court with no pre-sentence interview and you failed to cooperate, you were a model prisoner. You didn't give any trouble. You were a good mother and a good wife, which pissed people off. They're like, what? She fucking killed her kid. Yeah, you know. So, Melanie, what was Boyce's what was his stance on this? Do you feel that he set this? He knew exactly, obviously, what he was going to do.
Yeah.
I just want to get it from your perspective.
Yeah, I think he knew exactly what he was going to do with her. This was no surprise. And he wanted to just point out to her, you know, like, at one time, maybe you were a good person. What happened to you? You know, he called her at one point something like a religious zealot, or he said she had like some weird, she was delusional. You know, I mean, he said some nice things to her, I guess, to make her think that, you know, he understood maybe that at one time she was normal, but then at one point she just went completely off the delusional end.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was a 430-page pre-sentencing investigation, and it's her right, whether or not she wanted to participate in that, to be evaluated, to, you know, submit to questioning, and she did not. She said no. She declined. So that was her choice, and she didn't do it. And
your audio just cut down, Melanie. Your audio just cut down. So, yeah, and I'm going to expand on what Melanie just said here, is that he also took it another step. he said to Lori Vallow, he kept bringing up some of the things that she made statements on before this trial began, and I felt what he did was brilliant here, Ed. I don't know, you know, I know that you probably didn't listen to the whole thing, and nor did I, but I did replay back, and I was just I said, this guy, what he did was perfect. It was poetic justice in my mind, that he really set her up and gave her false hope, and then bam.
Well, did you see her face though? I mean, if you looked at when the camera panned back and forth, so she kind of got a smile on her face when he was saying all those pleasant things about her.
Right.
And it's like, all right, he brought her up, and then bam,
Slammed
he
it
just took it to the mat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you could see the life kind of drain out of her body. I'll tell you one place she's never going. Heaven. She's not getting in.
No,
okay,
no.
That door is permanently locked, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And this just, to me, listening to her defense attorney ask for, I think, 12 or 17 years with the chance of parole. Her defense attorney, listen, that's their job. I get it. But listening to him, and was a whole nother thing that I listened to. And I was just like, what in God's name? Like, that was just a far reach. Ether Bunny, thank you so much for the super chat. She said, didn't the judge have to address these items that might have been mitigating influences and no priors and good behavior in jail and being those? Yeah, I think this was all part of the judicial process. He had to go through these motions, and that's why I was going to Melanie before she had the mic issue. Did you get to correct that?
I'm going to swap out my mic with another mic, so I'm going to go off for 1 second.
Okay, all right. So Melanie's going to try to fix that, and we're going to come back. Let's listen to what the judge had to say. This is him sentencing her. This is the best part of the whole thing. So we're going to skip right to the good part. Let me get this. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Let's get to this, because he gets her to stand to her feet and gives her the business.
To both you and others. So that concludes the aggravating factors the court considered. At this time, then, I am prepared to pronounce sentence. Mr. Thomas, Mr. Archibald, and the defendant, would you please rise for the pronouncement of sentence? Based on all the relevant circumstances, including the evidence and recommendations presented in court today, it's the judgment of this court. Ms. Vallow, you'll be sentenced as follows. I'll first note I'm going to take up the counts out of order, as I want to address the substantive murder sentences first. So on count 2, the charge you were convicted of, the first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan, you are sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence of fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. On count 4, the charge of the first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow, you are sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate life imprisonment sentence with no possibility of parole. I'll next address the 3 conspiracy counts you've been convicted of, and note under Idaho Code 18-1701, the punishment for those crimes is the same as the underlying offenses you combined to commit. One of the offenses you combined to commit was first-degree murder, so those may be punishable also by imprisonment for life. When I look at what the appropriate sentences should be for the conspiracy charges, at first I wondered if they should be as long of a term or serious as the substantive murder charges.
I love what he
However,
says here.
what I've concluded is that these conspiracy convictions merit the same grave punishment for several reasons. First, the conspiracies in which you engaged in have had far-reaching impacts on many people besides the deceased victims. And with what the court's heard, I am convinced that the conspiracy charges also merit the same serious sentence. So on count 1, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception, you're sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. On count 3, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception. You're sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. And on count 5, the conspiracy to commit the first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell, you're sentenced to the custody of the State Board of Corrections to serve the maximum allowed sentence, a fixed determinate term of life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. Finally, the court will address count 7, which is the charge of grand theft. On that charge, court is going to sentence you to a fixed determinate term of 5 years of prison, followed by an indeterminate term of 5 years of prison for a total 10-year term of imprisonment on the grand theft. Court will next consider whether sentences should be imposed consecutively or concurrently. I generally don't, I'm a pragmatic person, and I've struggled with the point of a consecutive sentence when in Idaho, a life sentence is just that, a life sentence without parole. And I've thought it through. However, when I looked at this case and the more I thought about it, I've determined that because there are 3 separate murders with 3 separate victims that occurred at 3 separate times, then running counts concurrently would not serve the interests of justice, because those crimes all need to be taken into account separately and distinctly and individually. And you need to be held accountable separately for each of the 3 murders. So
Amen.
on those counts,
Yeah.
the court will run consecutively the count 2 murder of Tylee Ryan, consecutive to count 4, the murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow, and count 5 will run consecutive to count 2 and 4, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell. So 3 consecutive life terms of prison. The remaining counts will be concurrent to the counts that are consecutive. The court will impose fines as requested by the state in the amount of $25,000 for all counts except the grand theft. On the grand theft, the fine will be in the amount of $1,000.
Is it just me, or does it just seem like she's standing there with a cocky ass attitude, like, "Hey, I'm still the shit." This is, you know, as she's getting slam dunked, she's standing there in between those 2 attorneys of hers, and she seems, it just the body language to me, it looks like she's still thinking that her shit doesn't stink. Ugh.
The court will assess the civil penalty that was requested, and I find it's appropriate under Idaho Code 195307 of $5,000 per victim on each of the 3 victims as a civil penalty. And then finally, the restitution, which was requested by the state. Mr. Wood, if you could reiterate that number, $22,000, of what the restitution term is. And I want to inquire if there's any other restitution being sought by the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe I said 22,545. And the state would ask for an additional 30 days to submit any further restitution for the victims, living victims who have been deemed as such by this court.
The court will assess that restitution on the grand theft charge of $22,545 as shown through the evidence at trial. And the court will allow 30 days for additional restitution requests, but that will be waived if it's not submitted timely. That'll conclude the court's sentencing on the charges. Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions on the sentence?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wood, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, counsel, before we conclude, and Ms. Vallow, importantly, I need to advise you of the rights you have now. You do have the right to appeal to the Idaho Supreme Court from this judgment of conviction, and you have a right to be represented by an attorney if you appeal. You're also advised if you can't afford an attorney, an attorney will be appointed for you at public expense, and you only have 42 days to file an appeal. You also have the right to seek relief from my judgment under Idaho Criminal Rule 35. You have 120 days to file that motion if you believe a correction or reduction of this sentence is appropriate because it was either illegal or too harsh. And finally, you may also have rights to seek relief under the Idaho Uniform Post-Conviction Relief Act. Those actions have to be filed within 1 year from the day your right to appeal expires.
Melanie, are we going to see an appeal?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't have you edit in.
that's all right. I think so. I think she's narcissistic enough to think that, this is all so unjust. She didn't murder anyone. These were accidental or suicides or, crazy side effects of medications. She really does not think that she did anything wrong, and she will never admit to it. And, if the state's going to pay for it, she'll go on and on and on. She's 50 years old. So she could appeal this thing for the next 20 years.
Well, she'll be appealing it from inside a prison.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She'll make herself a jailhouse lawyer. And, she's 5'7". And when she's standing there, she looks tiny in between those two lawyers. They must be enormous. But I also felt like she was sitting in an adjustable chair, and she made it on the lowest setting, because when she was sitting at the table, she was like this, she was like scrunched down, and you couldn't really see her. She was hiding. I was surprised she didn't wear street clothes, because we know they have that option. And she didn't. She was in her prison garb, which I found surprising.
Yeah.
And, we didn't really get a good look at her. I was on my laptop watching, but I couldn't even zoom in enough to see her face, but she just looked apathetic the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm gonna show it right here, Ed. You can see her. She's crouched down.
She slumped down.
Yeah, she slumped down, and like you said, chair probably on the lowest setting.
She's got her legs crossed.
Yeah.
And during the victim impact statements, when they were being read, she was looking at the wall.
Right, exactly.
She was looking nowhere near them. She looked at the wall the entire time. It's almost like she turned her chair and she looked at the wall.
She's turned right here in this photo. But this reminds me of, she took the George Costanza defense. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
In her sick mind, everything she said there was true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know what, Ed? This is during the Tammy Daybell sisters victim impact statement. So I fast forwarded a little bit because she read a statement from her dad, but I want everyone to hear what Tammy Daybell's sister said. She calls her a liar, and the defense for Shallow Vallow objected while she was delivering her victim impact statement. Did everybody catch that?
There were a lot of objections, and that's rarely done.
Walls by this guy, and I hate to curse like that. I'm sorry, guys, but that angered me. I should have bleeped myself. Darn it! But that really pisses me off, because I know it's within the attorney's right to object, right? And it was noted by the judge. But let these fucking victims talk. How do you have the audacity? Your client is already convicted. She's at sentencing, and you're going to stand there and say, I have an objection to one of the victim's sisters from speaking.
When they have these victim impact statements, all right, the judge has already made up the mind about the sentence. All right. So this is just a formality to allow the family members, the victims, to vent. In reality, it's most of the times it doesn't change the judge's opinion on sentencing. Yeah. I mean, I know of a few cases where it has made the judge stand up and say, I need to rethink something, and then come back in and change something.
Not on this one, though.
No, this was a done deal. So, what was the object of objection? I mean, he's not going to change the feelings. He's not going to change the outcome.
Yeah, he objected, Ed, because she was calling her a liar.
There's nothing that you can appeal here.
I know.
This is a victim impact statement. It's not something you can use in an appeal.
Yeah. Let's listen to this, because the suspense is killing me. I have to hear it again. By a show of hands in the chat, and Anika, thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone for being here. By a show of hands in the chat, press a 1 if you saw this or heard this. or watch this on the replay. Push it 2 if you haven't heard it. This is going to be your first time. Little Patty, why was the death penalty taken off the table? I believe, and Melanie, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was a combination of several different things, but her mental state and her condition. Remember, she had to, in Idaho, there's no reason of insanity defense, right? So she played that freaking game, the shallow Vallow game of that, I can't answer questions right. Her attorney, remember that whack job that she had in the beginning? He was like, well, my client, I can't really communicate with her. She's not understanding, blah, 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 blah. And they kept sending her to get her 30, 60 days evaluations. They got her right. They put her on her medicine. And the judge, in the best interest of justice, said, you know what? I'm going to slam dunk her and put her away if she's convicted and comes back with a guilty verdict. Anyways, so let's do this. And this was the safest thing, right, Mel? I mean,
yeah, well, eventually they took it off the table as part of a deal because they wanted to get that 6-week trial going at the beginning of April, and they didn't want her to, pull another, incompetency thing, because it went back and forth several times about whether she was competent enough to stand trial, and they just wanted it to go. So they said, we'll take the death penalty off the table if we can just go with this trial now, and they agreed to that.
Yeah. Let's listen to Tammy Daybell's sister call Shallow Vallow a liar.
Into our recovery process, I would like to share thoughts about the impact of the actions of Lori Vallow on our family. Tammy's death was unexpected and had a profound impact on all of us. We were barely into our recovery process when we learned of Chad's new marriage exactly 2 weeks after losing Tammy. We had no knowledge of missing children until we were visited by law enforcement officers and informed of Tammy's disinterment and autopsy. The drama began to unfold and the reason for the quick burial became apparent. Over the course of the following months, the ensuing revelations of deceit and intrigue caused extreme emotional stress on my wife, Phyllis. We became estranged from the Daybell children and began losing the close relationships we had with them. I'm sure they feel awkward about their father's actions and how Tammy's death was affecting us. We value them as grandchildren and want to keep them close to us. While Phyllis was already battling her leukemia of over 30 years, the emotional stress of this drama seemed to accelerate her declining health. Her remaining months of life were full of strain and heartache. Lori entered Chad's life long before we were aware of any interaction between them. In retrospect, we see that Chad was living a double life and the bonds of his family were being eroded due to his involvement with Lori. The eternal ramifications of her actions are yet to be calculated. Lori needs to pay for her actions according to the laws of mortals. She will still answer according to the laws of God when she passes from this life. Ron Douglas. This is my statement. Over the last few years, I've often thought about what I would ever say to you, Lori. I've often thought about what my sister would have said too. The minute I found out that Chad had quickly remarried after the death of my most beloved sister, Tammy, it confirmed what I had always felt. You see, the minute I received the phone call that she had died, I knew something had happened to her, but I didn't know why I would feel that way. So when we were told by Chad that he had married you and that it had happened 2 weeks after Tammy had been buried, my heart knew. I researched you like any true woman would to find out who you were. What did I find? Lies. Everything about you that you tried to tell others is a lie.
At this point, I'm going to object. I don't believe this falls within the statute or within the Idaho Constitution or within Idaho versus Payne.
All right, Mr. Thomas, your objection's noted. It's overruled. The court will be able to consider and ferret out these statements and properly consider what's in the record. You can continue,
Thank
Ms.
you.
William.
What an idiot.
We asked, what's her name? Lori Bryant.
Hold on. I got something to say about that. You know what's coming.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
That's about it.
That was a lie. That was 2 husbands ago. So as I searched, what happened to your previous husband? She told us that he died from a heart attack. Lie. He died from being shot. I asked, are there children? I was told we will be empty nesters. That's a lie. The police ask us about missing children. You answer, the children aren't missing. They're safe and happy. It's a lie. Your children, your poor children were dead and buried on Chad's property, and my sister was told was sick and her health was failing. Well, that was a lie. I had seen her with my own eyes 2 weeks prior. She was very healthy. We have to go through her being disinterred and having an autopsy done. Was glad to get some answers and some truth after so many lies. But to find out what we knew in our hearts all along, she'd been murdered by those who saw her as an obstacle to a plan. Planned her murder just as much as you planned the murders of your own children and your previous husband. Why? Why plan something so heinous? You had an affair with a married man. You lied to yourself by what is okay to sneak behind the backs of your spouses. You are not exalted beings, and your behavior makes you ineligible to be one. But why pick Chad? He was an average guy, and you had married several men before him. He made you feel special and singled out. You tell yourself that you were high spiritual beings who have lived lives together through time. You felt powerful. This is too is a lie. But Chad has no real wealth. How will you live? You can easily have divorced your spouses and made your own perverted life together, but you need money. So you tell this story about people being dark and that they are zombies. This is how you justify who needs to be removed. You use this lie to justify the murders of 4 people whose deaths you profit from. But you could sit there and think, you've never met me and I don't know you. But I've always been able to tell when I am being lied to, and you are a liar, an adulteress, and a murderer. Because of the choices you made, my family lost a beloved mother, sister, aunt, and daughter. She is irreplaceable. She was 1,000 times the woman you will ever dream of being. Because of the choices you made, we have been hounded by media and those who revel in all of the salacious scandal you have stirred up. Because of you and your desire to get what you want at any cost, my family has been ripped apart. I helped raise Tammy's children. And because of you, they no longer have their mother or grandmother. And because of fear of losing another parent, they listen to the lies spewed by you and Chad. Our relationship is strained and most contact with them is gone. Your trial was the last thing my ailing mother had to live through. She declined in health as she heard through news reports all of the horrible things that happened, and she had to relive all the things we have tried to forget the last 4 years. My mother passed away in June, knowing that you will never come out of prison again. Her passing was marred by the fact that Tammy's children chose not to participate in her funeral because of fear of causing more drama. We were deprived of the chance to heal and have them realize how much we love them. We don't blame them for what happened, but we blame you and Chad for all the lies you've told and ripping apart this family. We didn't do anything. My parents are not evil. They did not deserve to lose their grandchildren on top of losing their daughter. I did not deserve to lose the relationships of children I helped raise, or a sister that was my dearest friend. I am not a dark person or a zombie, and for me and my family to be portrayed that way is unacceptable. Lucky for me, the world can see the truth as much as I can. Everyone now knows what liars you are. They now all know what horrible things you have done. You will have to live in your prison cell for the rest of your life. You are not an exalted being, and there's no huge event that is going to save you. No jail walls are going to fall so you can leave. No angels are coming to rescue you. You made judgments of others and determined if they should die based on the fact that they might do bad things and we need to kill them before they do. That is not how the atonement works. We cannot punish and judge others on things they haven't happened yet, but you did. You have also made choices that have led you here. You have been judged by the court and you have been found guilty. Your consequences are before you. I miss my sister every day. I will grieve her and now the loss of my mother for the rest of my life. I will always remember them. As for you, I choose to forget you. And as I leave this courtroom today, I choose to never think of you again.
Well done, Samantha. what a strong, powerful statement. What a powerfully strong woman. Um, you know, listening back to that after listening to it once before, it really tugs at your heartstrings, but it's so true. Everything that she said there was brutally honest. And it summed up the evil monster that Tammy, that Tammy, that she was. She was just an evil, sick monster. And I think that this woman summed it up so well. Over to you, Melanie.
And that is the difference between real tears and crocodile tears.
Mm.
And you could just hear it in her voice. And we couldn't even see her face, but we could feel every single word and how genuine and authentic it was. And it was heartbreaking to listen to. But, you know, contrast that to listening to when, you know, Lori got up and spoke, night and day.
Yeah.
And the way she was, you know, her body language, the way she was, you know, shrinking down and just looking at the walls. She couldn't even give them the respect of looking at them and hearing what they had to say. Gross.
She's in denial.
Because she's
Gross.
innocent, because I'm innocent. This is unfair. I have to sit through this. Well, you see the difference between a class act there and a POS.
Yeah, 100%. I really wanted to play that. Again, I knew that it would tug at folks' heartstrings, but this is what we speak about on a regular basis. The victims' families are left behind to live a life of this horrible memory of what this evil person did to not just one family, multiple families. And it goes and it trickles down to aunts, uncles, cousins, relatives, friends, communities, the police who investigated this case, the jurors that had to listen. And I love that Judge Boyce really gave it to Lori Vallow, and he said, "You asked me to be taken out of the courtroom when the autopsy photos were shown of your children. And
Yeah.
I denied that because he stated, these are his words, the jurors had to see it. The families had to see it. You had to see it." And I commend Judge Boyce. You know, he got a bad rap right from the beginning from even Larry Woodcock in the beginning because he was being denied access to the courtroom. Remember that, Melanie and Ed? We were talking about this.
Mhm.
But it quickly got rectified. And, you know, the Woodcocks are stand-up people. They're good people. And today, Larry and Kay gave statements, and Kay gave an impact statement as well. It was over 30 some odd minutes. But after this was all said and done outside of the courthouse, they made some great points, and they brought up some great things, and they talked about stuff that should never ever happen again, and how we all should be hyper vigilant and keep our eyes on things that don't seem normal. And I love that he brought that up. I have one more thing to play, and then I want to go to some questions in the audience. Put hashtag Ed, hashtag Melanie, hashtag DutyRon, and we will highlight your comments. Keep it pertaining to the sentencing today in Idaho of Lori Vallow Daybell. I like to refer to her as Lori Shallow Vallow. So we'll look at the comments. And I have, again, I want to play Larry's statement at the end. But you know, there was there was multiple people that made statements, and this one's 6 minutes long, but I think it's well worth the listen here. But let's take a couple of questions from the audience. I didn't see anything fly by yet because I think everybody is just hanging on all of our words. But justice, I believe, was served today, and I'm going to go to both Ed and Melanie on this. Melanie, is that statement, does that ring true here today?
That justice was served? 100%. You know, and with regard to Judge Boyce, you know, there were a lot of comments about him. And listen, I think he was very measured. He was very thoughtful. His opinion was very well reasoned. You could tell that he took a lot of time with this. And at one point, he said to her, he said, you know, you could have done a lot of other things to achieve your goals here. You could have gotten divorced. You could have found someone else to take care of your children. There are plenty of people that would want to take care of your children. He said, but instead you fell into some bizarre religious rabbit hole and you have showed no remorse. And he said that several times, no remorse, no remorse, no remorse. So, you know, despite what other people have said about him, I think that he showed incredible restraint and a lot of class and a very well-reasoned approach to his sentencing. And it's going to make it tough for an appeal because he dotted every I and he crossed every T.
Do you think maybe she'll go after her lawyers and said she wasn't represented properly by them agreeing to make her go to trial for taking the death penalty off the table without her having gone through the full eval?
Judge Boyce asked her today,
Yeah.
were you happy with your representation? And she answered, yes.
On
Yeah.
the record. But
Yeah.
also it was her choice to not participate in the pre-sentencing investigation. You know,
Mhm.
that was her choice. And I'm sure they got that on the record too, because they want all of this on the record with a court reporter for exactly that reason.
Right. She painted herself
To
into a
shoot down
corner
an
now.
appeal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christina Lowry says, DutyRon, what did Lori's son say? He made a short statement. I did not listen to it. Melanie, did you hear it? Because I tried to pick and choose. I only had a short period of time to go over this. Did you hear?
Yeah, it was quick and to the point. And they read it on his behalf. He did not want to come to court, and who could blame him?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, nobody can blame him. But you know,
Nobody in their right mind.
heartfelt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chelsea Whitaker says, hashtag Melanie Little. What did you think of her defense attorney's statement?
You know, I had a lot of problems with that too, because he talked about himself for the first 5 minutes of that statement. It was about, you know, when I became a lawyer, I was first a prosecutor. And he really literally talked about himself for a good 5 minutes and about his wife and about Jesus. And it was really kind of bizarre. He talked about Martin Luther King. You know, he said, you know, Lori is a misunderstood person. And I took quotes. She is about love. She's a very different person than she plays on TV. I thought that was incredibly bizarre. And then he went on to ask for his 20-year fixed term to give hope, not hope for her, but hope for everyone who lives and breathes outside the world of prison. Her hope will benefit society. That's what he said. I thought it was a reach, and it was a little bizarre too.
Yeah. Ed, remember, Melanie, well said. Remember when the trial was, we were covering all the days of the trial, and he was questioning the forensic pathologist.
And he got his questions from television and the movies.
Right. So Popeye just said asshole.
No way.
Good job, but on cue, and he can't even hear the audio coming from Ed. So he used the analogy of a crime TV show, and the medical examiner, who was a pathologist, he was like, I find that really bizarre, or really
disturbing.
Thank you. I find it really disturbing that you are referencing a show as it pertains to my findings. This is not surprising. You know, this guy was a weirdo throughout the whole thing, and I don't like to put professionals down, but he was less than a professional as he represented her, and he gave me some weird vibes, like he was like falling in love with her. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit going a little too far here, but let me know what you think in the chat. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let's take a listen. This is 6 minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up. This is family after the sentencing is doled out. We're going to hear from folks, but mainly I want to listen to Larry and some other statements, because they were pretty high impact here, folks. So let's take a peek.
Is really grateful for the care that the judge, the prosecution, and those in the law enforcement here in Idaho, and the care that they took in doing this case. And we're really grateful for the outcome that came from it. And we're so grateful for the public support, but we're still grieving the loss of our mother this summer. So we appreciate your well wishes, and I'm just really grateful for the verdict was for today, the sentencing. So thank you.
All along, our hope, the work that we put in, the communication, the family was always about getting justice for Tammy. We obviously love JJ and Tylee too, and we were pretty confident that they would get a fixed life sentence for her. But the fact that the judge saw that fitting for Tammy just is the icing on the cake for us. Like she mentioned, we are still in mourning for my sister, and we can feel her, and we know that justice was done. So thankful for the judge, the prosecutors, every detective and administrator, everybody that worked so hard, and the people that had to see things that should never be seen. We pray for you, like we pray for ourselves, that we will someday not see them anymore. And yeah, we're done. Lori, we are done with Lori. She is no more to us.
You could see how painful that was. And you know, we heard the first woman was Samantha, I believe. That was Tammy Daybell's sister, who gave the victim impact statement. Again, this hurts everybody, and we're seeing it live here. You know, this is obviously the replay, but we saw it live outside of the court house. This is right outside the steps of the courthouse. We're going to hear from Larry next, so let's take a listen. High impact here.
First of all, I want to thank the unbelievable service of the district attorney, his office, the attorneys that represent this county, the people in this county, the people in Rexburg. It's amazing. This has been a long, hard 4 years. I think that we all knew the evidence was there. But if you think that I didn't worry, if you think that our family didn't worry, until the moment Judge Boyce said basically 3 consecutive life sentences, you're wrong. I was shaken, literally physically shaken inside. My stomach feels like a Mack truck rolled over. And I can tell you right now, I just want to get past this. It's time for healing. That is the one statement that I will agree with that the defense attorney said. It's time to heal. It's time to get past this. It's time for us, to everybody, to look out for everybody else. If you see something bad, say something. We owe nothing to anybody. We owe everything to our children, our grandchildren, our friends, our neighbors. We owe everything. How simple would this have been if somebody would have just simply stood up and say, this is enough of this bullshit. This is enough. We're not talking about murdering people. We're not talking about people dying. We're not praying for people to die. That is sick. Let's please don't allow this to happen again. Please, let's do not allow this to happen again. Pray for the ones that need help. Offer help to them. But protect everybody. Let's protect our family. Let's protect our friends. Let's protect our children. This is what this is about. The loss of 2 children. This is about the loss of my little man, JJ. I won't have the pleasure of ever seeing him again until I die. That is hard to swallow. Until I die. But I know without a doubt, if the Lord gives me ability and out of the kindness of his heart to allow me to go to heaven, I know without a doubt JJ is there, Charles is there. These are good people. And I imagine Tylee has got 1,000 friends already. And if they have cellular, I can well assure you her phone is full. God bless her. God bless everybody involved in this. I don't know what we would have done without the unbelievable support that y'all have offered.
There was nothing she could have said today to upset me or anything more. I'm done giving her control. It's over. Well, I'm walking out of here. I'm good. I'm happy. This is as good as it'll get. We'll never have JJ. We'll never have Tylee back again. But or Tammy's family won't have her back. But this is the closest thing we can get to satisfaction.
Powerful, right?
All right, the court will.
I
conclude then
just,
with-
where did Ed go? We lost him. I want to thank everyone for the super chats. We're not wrapping it up just yet, but we're getting close. All right, there he is. He's back. Ed, I don't know what happened.
I don't know. It just
Susan,
the
thank you.
screen.
Susan, thank you for the super chat. A lot of questions were coming in and a lot of support and love. I want to say thank you to everyone who sent really nice, kind messages for not only just Larry and Kay, but for all of these victims' families. They're all hurting. And, you know, they're going to go around. I understand Banfield tonight is going to have Kay and Larry Woodcock on there. And I'm sure that they are class acts. So I'm sure that they are going to have an inspirational message for all of us who are following this. But I wanted to go to, again, Melanie, and I keep going to you first because I want to hear not only a lawyer's perspective, but a female's perspective as it pertains to how these families are healing and moving forward. And don't forget, there's a second and third piece to this. There's Chad Daybell's, and the death penalty is on the table. Some folks were saying in the chat, will they use the same type of approach with Chad? And I'm going to get to Ed on that question next.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on this healing and how they're handling this?
Do you ever really heal from the loss of a child or a sister or a mother? You know, I mean, it's so hard. I was looking back at my notes because I've got a whole legal pad full of notes on this. And, you know, JJ and Tylee last were seen alive in September of 2019. So he's right. It has been 4 years. And as much as I was just thinking that maybe now that all of this court stuff is over, they can finally start to move ahead or move forward without the weight of all of this court stuff because it's so heavy. But you're right. Now they have to deal with Chad's trial. So it's going to go on again for however long. And it's just, it seems never ending. And, you know, I thought their statements were very poignant and hopeful. But unfortunately, yeah, there's still more to come. It's not over for them yet.
Yeah. And the Charles, and they have Charles Vallow, her fifth husband.
Charles, right.
Yeah, Charles Vallow. Jerry was there, Charles' brother. I saw him in the background. But Ed, I wanted to go to you on the evidence. A lot of the evidence that was brought forward in Lori Shallow Vallow's trial is going to pertain to Chad because we're talking about the same scenario and all three.
Yes.
His wife and the 2 kids.
See, now, unfortunately, his defense team has a roadmap to follow now because they saw how this trial went down. And since it's going to be a lot of the same evidence, I'm sure they're going to try and pick this apart and make a better defense than what was done in here.
Yeah. And we had Gigi McKelvey from Pretty Lies and Alibis. She's at the courthouse. She's down there and she's going to be on Banfield tonight. She's been reporting live with Law and Crime Network. She told us that Chad's attorney was in the courtroom. She saw him during the trial, and he was there from day one. And she said she saw him almost every day, taking notes and getting himself prepared, as Ed Wallace just said.
Yeah,
you know, so
absolutely.
you know, he's going to have a different approach than the wackadoodles that were all part of her team. I mean, I hate to even go there, but I'm calling as I see it. And she said in court today that she was happy with her defense team. You know, it takes one to know one, I guess. But Chad Daybell's attorney is on the wall, and he doesn't F around. So I anticipate seeing a whole different landscape with this defense for Chad Daybell. And again, the death penalty is not off the table in his case. So we'll see what happens. Attorney Melanie Little, do you think that Chad Daybell his attorney may say to him, hey, there's a lot here. Maybe we should try to plea with them and take this death penalty off the table?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to try the case. I think they're going to try and paint her as the mastermind, and maybe Alex, pin it on Alex because he's dead, right? So, I mean, that's my feeling. I don't think that he's going to want to, he's like she is. He's a narcissist. He's not going to spend the rest of his life in jail willingly without a fight, right? What do you think, Ed?
And she's a master manipulator, so
yeah,
they'll try to throw everything on her since she's already convicted, and make him look like the poor sap. Okay, that he didn't really know what he was getting into, and she had him wrapped around her finger, and she said jump, he said how high.
Yeah.
So
you're right, and listen, John Pryor said he is bringing in expert witnesses to present his case. All good defense attorneys should be bringing in expert witnesses to help present their case, and to not to present. This is in defense. It's the district attorneys. The onus is on the state to prove their case. He's just going to be defending his client. So his experts are going to come on in defense, obviously, of Chad Daybell, and to challenge what they have. But it's going to be a tough battle. We have a lot to cover here. We're going to continue on with this. I feel strongly that, this family and the victims' families are going to travel. They're not just going to, this is not a one and done for them. They're going to be in the courtroom for every day of Chad Daybell's trial. They're going to go to Arizona for Jerry's brother, Charles Vallow. They're going to be in that courtroom. So they have this a long road ahead of them. And we're going to continue to support these families. And again, Kay and Larry are always, Kay's in the chat a lot tonight. Very busy, obviously, but she's been in the chat with us. Melanie, you've seen her.
Yeah.
And she engages with the good communities, the communities that support them. And she loves to hear the facts being doled out. What do we got up on the screen there? Jamie Johnson said Chad was already distorting the religion to fit his wacky thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, and she did too. I can't stand these so-called religious people. When you practice a religion, an organized religion, there are tenets to the faith, and you don't get to pick and choose which tenets you follow. You follow them all, or you can't call yourself a member of that religious community. Okay, it's not like a American Chinese restaurant where you pick one from column A and one from column B, and you just follow the ones that you like, the rules that you like, the tenets that you like. Okay, so she gets up there and she quotes scripture, but she obviously forgot about the 10 Commandments. Okay, and he's going to do the same thing because of this sick cult that they were in. It's not a religion; it's a cult. Okay. And it's not going to fare well for him either. Right? Yeah. So if he's going to go down that road, he's at a losing hand.
I agree, Melanie, and I saw you shaking your head there. I had Ed full screen, but I see this is there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of coverage on this, and I'm sure the cameras will be in that courtroom as well for Chad Daybell. It's not, they're not going to allow it just for, you know, Lori and then, you know, shut it down for him. So this remains to be seen, and I feel that we are going to have a lot to talk about here in the future. We're going to continue to cover these cases. I just want to remind the audience that we are all going to be segued over to Police Off the Cuff. They're going to be starting their live stream. Detective Phil, Sergeant Bill, and Mike Geary are going to be talking about Coburger tonight. So if that is your fancy, go on over there. You're going to be redirected. But on behalf of Ed Wallace, Crime Time with DutyRon, and Melanie Little, we want to thank everybody for watching this live. But we also want to thank you for the replay viewers. The replay viewers are the heart and soul of any community on YouTube. I thank you guys for watching. The moderators are great. The live chatters, you guys do a fantastic job of asking the tough questions, and we all appreciate that, because without you, we got nothing. And I encourage people to go over to Melanie Little's YouTube channel. She is the attorney Melanie Little. I have it linked in the description. Subscribe, like, and engage with her, because Melanie is a badass when it comes to engagement. She loves to engage with her audience. So go over and check her out. If you haven't already, go over there and subscribe. It's free. What do you think, Mel?
It's free.
There you go.
I think I got to go to bed so I can get up and get online to go see Rex Heuermann's appearance tomorrow. So I will be there 8 a.m.
Thank you for reminding me.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Melanie's going out to the courthouse. She's going to be reporting, I would assume, on her YouTube channel, and also giving me and Ed a little bit of a heads up. And if you have the time, Melanie, if there's anything to talk about, let's fire it up tomorrow night and talk about Rex Heuermann's first court appearance.
Absolutely.
Ed, what do you think? Final words.
Well, justice was served, but the ultimate justice is still waiting her, and she'll meet that judge the day she succumbs to her earthly being, and she's not going to heaven.
No, definitely not. Melanie, Ed, thank you for taking out the hour and 12 minutes to hang out with us. Crime Time with DutyRon, as we always like to say, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially these victims' families. We send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. And as you could see from the media that we played, they need our strength. They need our prayers. They need our support. I appreciate everyone coming in. Ed, you got one more thing. We can't end this without your...
That's right. Remember, folks, always stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Peace from New York and an undisclosed location. This guy down here, who knows where he is. Good night, folks.
Night, everyone.